But yeah, funny enough story. Like Niall and I only met over the phone yesterday. Greg is responsible for a lot today, so thank you, Greg, for not only helping us organise the venue, but having Niall here. Niall sits in Greg's chair quite often, and they have good conversations. So I've heard. And once I heard a bit about the story, I thought this is the perfect guest to bring to the Mastermind. A very well established and known hairdresser. Done it all as far as I'm aware. I'm sure you'll tell the story better than me. Has a very successful salon. Salons. Salon in Limerick. I'll let you tell them the numbers for context. But yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to have Niall here today, and hope that you guys can take as much knowledge and soak as much information up as possible from someone who's been in the game, experienced the roller coaster, the ups, the downs, left to right.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody.
So it's a great honor to be here, and I mean that. Thank you, Greg, for inviting me. And my journey has been not to use the cliche of a roller coaster, but it has been an absolute roller coaster. I'm going to start by telling you where I am today, okay? And then I'm going to take you back to the events of the 21st of October 2013. Okay, so I have my own salon on the Callahan Strand. I've had it for 16 years. I'm 40 years in the industry. I have 20 staff, and they're all employed. I own my business premises. I'll make the final payment on the business premises in January. In January, my business will be absolutely debt-free. We don't house any VAT. We don't have any other loans. We are completely up to date with revenue. These are things that I could never have dreamt of in a million years 16 years ago, okay? Personally, I have no personal debt. I am, in a situation at 56 years of age and with 40 years in the industry where I've never been so hungry to better myself. I've never been so hungry to improve my skills as a hairdresser, to improve my skills as a leader, to improve my skills as a partner to Mealy, to improve my skills as a parent. I am the greatest animal you'll ever meet for change and for wanting to take steps in a forward direction. I was at a business talk some time ago, and the person leading the talk said that he lives his life imagining his 80th birthday and the people that will be at the table and what the people that will stand up to say about him will say. And he wants to imagine what those people will say about his legacy. Changed my life because I didn't know how to think forward. Because on the 21st of October 2013, I didn't have a pot to piss in. I was financially fucked. My business was shit. It was toxic. It was horrible. I didn't know how to lead a team. But guess what happened on the 21st of October 2013? I bullshitted my way to winning Irish Salon of the Year. Unbelievable. It was a dream that I had always dreamt of. I thought, I only opened it in 2009, and look at me. I'm Irish Salon of the Year owner. But in reality, I shouldn't even have been Limerick Salon of the Year owner because my business was an absolute failure. I was 4 years in. I didn't know how to lead anybody. I didn't know how to pay wages. I didn't know how to pay stock bills. I didn't know how to pay VAT, tax, anything. I was completely confused, completely alone, and I was drinking heavily. And at the weekend, I was taking cocaine. So, and the reasons I was doing that was, look, I had a very, very difficult upbringing. Okay, so I was out of home at 15, but I was lucky because I was always a worker. By the age of 15, I was earning about £60 a week. I started off at the age of 8 picking up stones from Gary Owen's rugby football club's second and third pitches for 10 pence a bucket. I go down to the Crescent Shopping Centre and buy myself 7-inch singles. They were records. They were small records, just for the young ones, Gen Zs that don't know. But I built a work ethic because I wanted to be out of home because home life wasn't good, right? By the time I was 15, I was DJing in 2 clubs in Limerick. Tropics, do you remember Tropics? And Ted's, and a place called Flamingos. I used to do a Thursday night spot there in Flamingos on William Street. And because I was so out there, all the boys in school were really jealous. Okay? Now, jealousy it's a tough thing during teenage years because one of the boys, his name was Owen, he decided that I had to be stopped at all costs being the cool kid, right? So he set up a little club called the ACC. And he peer pressured everybody to wear these little badges, ACC. Of course, I didn't know what the ACC was, right? Because I wasn't told. And when I looked around one day, I saw that the 2 mates that I made really good friends with that summer, just after coming back to school in September, they were both wearing the ACC badges as well. And I said, come on, lads, what's this ACC? Somebody pulled me aside and told me it was the Anti-Colgan Club, right? I remember that my geography teacher, and it was just before geography class, and my geography teacher that year had been hit by lightning on a on a golf course in Ballybunion, right? But miraculously he survived, and he was back in school, right? And I just remember that. And I was a good boy, right? I believe it or not. I was a good student. I was very pleasant to the teachers and everything. But when I got that news before the class, I'm a 15-year-old, and it's not easy to get that news that someone has formed the Anti-Colgan Club. So Mr. Harmon said something to me, and I said, pity the fucking lightning didn't kill you, right? Like, it just, I don't know where it came from. So I picked up my bag, and I picked up my coat, and I walked out of school. Now, my father was a founder member of the University of Limerick, and he, in full-time education, obviously, right? So his dream of his eldest son was to watch him come down the steps in UL and get his first-class honours degree from him. And, that will be his proudest moment. But instead, his son was leaving school. Now, I didn't tell anybody it was because I was being bullied, because I couldn't stay in school, because for me, that was just too much to take. Home life was tough, and now this, I couldn't do it. So when my father came home from work, he said to me, I left out a little bit, right? Okay, that morning, I nearly killed my mother. Right? She was a chronic alcoholic, and she was addicted to Valium. And we had a massive fight that morning, and I was ironing my school shirt at the top of the house, just inside the front door, and she came down, she was giving out to me about something. And I lifted up the iron, and I pushed her onto the ground, and I put my 2 knees on her elbows, and I was going to kill her, right? I know it sounds crazy, but that's what happened, okay? So everything just was going against me. When I was in Mr. Harmon's class, we were at the front of the school, and when I looked out the window of the school, my mother was walking down the drive in her nightie, right? I'd just been told that the Anti-Colgan Club, and then the humiliation of my mother walking down the drive in her nightie to tell everybody that I tried to kill her that morning. So that was the final straw for me. I walked out of school that day, and I never went back. Now, I don't recommend walking out of school at 15. I'm one of the lucky ones because I had the work ethic, right? And people say to me, you left school at 15. I should leave school at 15 because look at you, right? And I say, well, I got stuck into a life of hard work at 15 years of age. But My father said, you leave school, you leave home. So I did. I got a flat on Wolfstone Street in Limerick City for £17.50 a week. And I went to see a guidance counsellor, and she said to me, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I have two dreams. I want to be a Garda, okay, or I want to be a PE teacher. And she said, well, you have to go to school for both. And I said, well, fuck that, I'm not going to school. So she said, have you thought about hairdressing? I'd never been in a hair salon in my entire life. And she said, I know this guy, Hugh Campbell. He is up on O'Connell Avenue, and I know him. He's always looking for young people to come along. I said, great, I'll try that. Never been in a hair salon. So she set me up. She rang Hugh, and the receptionist said to send me up. So I walked the 4 blocks up to the Hugh Campbell Hair Studio, walked down, sat in the salon, which was in a basement, and there was an oval couch, right? And she sat me on the couch, on this side of the couch. I was sitting here, and Hugh Campbell was working in the corner, and he left me on the couch for 4 hours. Okay? Now, I'd never been in the hair salon. I was fascinated. But he left me there for 4 hours to see if I'd walk out. Okay? And I didn't. I sat there. And I took it all in. Like the hustle and bustle of that salon was unbelievable. There were really cool guys and really cool girls, and there were older people, and everybody was enthralled by the hairdressers. I thought, well, this is something different. Hugh Campbell came over to me after 4 hours, sat down beside me and said, do you want to be a hairdresser? I said, yeah. He said, start Tuesday morning, 8:45. Walked away, right? It's the only interview I ever had in my life. And it lasted 10 seconds. So I started with him 40 years ago this September. And, I stuck by his side for 20 years. He taught me everything that I knew up to that point. He gave me a phenomenal grounding, a phenomenal belief in what hair was about. He gave me a great education, and we remain friends today. He's like my actual father. But the time came then to move on. And when you're working somewhere for 20 years, you feel like part of the furniture, take it for granted. You never feel as though you've climbed a ladder, really. It's kind of like everybody that's been there longer than you still looks at you as a junior, and you know what I mean? It's just, but I got headhunted, and I got a fantastic offer to take over Bellissimo on the Dock Road in Limerick. Anyone familiar with that? Bellissimo? Yeah. So I always took people by their word. I had never done a business course, or I didn't know anything about business or anything like that, but they asked me to take over the Bellissimo hairdressing brand, and I renamed it the Director's Cut. Okay? So under the Bellissimo umbrella, the hair salon became the Director's Cut, because I believe the Director's Cut of anything was the purest vision, right? So the Director's Cut of any movie is the cut that the director thinks is the best one, right? So I put the tagline, the purest vision, underneath it, right? I loved that. But Bellissimo bought that, like they bought the rights to it, right? And that was great, and everything seemed to be going well. But I left Hugh Campbell, which I never would have done, but which happened to be the best thing ever, with an offer I couldn't refuse. And part of that offer was a percentage share in Bellissimo. But do you think I signed a contract? Do you think I looked for a contract? They must have thought all their Christmases had come together, because I didn't understand shit like that. Before I went to Bellissimo, I had been a creative director, because I was the busiest hairdresser. I was a manager, because I was the busiest hairdresser. I was an educational director, because I was the busiest hairdresser. I never received a morsel of education on how to be a manager, how to be a creative director, or how to be an educational director. Do you think I did those jobs well? The answer is no, I fucking didn't. But they didn't care, because they gave me the title that made me want to stay. Does that make sense? All right? Very, very clever tactics to big somebody's ego. I'll tell you the difference between ego and confidence. Ego is born from pain. This is only from my own feeling, right? An ego is born from pain. Confidence is born from love and ability. Okay? They're two different things. Ego can actually hamper you in your life. Confidence will drive you to the stars. They're two different things. Confidence leads to arrogance. Ego leads to arrogance, and confidence leads to, what do you think confidence leads to? Humble. Being humble. Yeah? Because you don't need to be arrogant. Confidence is, it's power. It's unbelievable. So, when I signed the contract for Bellissimo, I thought I was fucking Pele or something, right? When I went to Bellissimo without signing the contract, I thought I was Pele because the offer was you've got your share, you're on enormous money, which did happen, right? And you think that, like, a hairdresser coming out with €1,500 a week after tax was absolutely unheard of, yeah? So they felt that they'd done that much at least. So I took Bellissimo from being a small little blue and orange, filthy, dirty salon on a roundabout into this massive 48-chair salon with 40 plus staff, an academy. You know, it literally, it exploded, right? After 5 years, I went to them and said, now, let me just explain as well. I was also a bit of a party head at the time, right? So I made some mistakes, shagged a couple of the staff, you know, that kind of thing. You know, when I should have been the manager, you know, the directors weren't too happy about that shit. And, you know, they kind of thought, this guy's meant to be director material, she's married, she's, you make these mistakes, right? So after 5 years, I'd done the job. I turned Bellissimo into a creative force. I went looking for my share of the company. I said, like, what's happening? Like, it's been 5 years, I haven't received. And they went, what are you talking about? And I said, my share. And they went, we never said we were going to give you a share. I said, you did. Do you remember in Market Square? I was coked up there. I didn't say that out loud. But, you know, I was... So what am I getting from Bellissimo? You know? They went, no, we never said that. I said, lads, come on. And they went, don't know what you're talking about. It's the greatest shock I ever got in my life. I couldn't believe it. Because I knew they did say it. And I knew that was the reason I jumped ship. I was absolutely shocked. So I left the meeting. And I went in, and obviously I trained a lot of hairdressers. So I started to go around to the lads and say, if I open my own salon, would you come with me? If I open my own salon, would you come with me? You know, Billy Big Balls. No idea how to open a salon. No idea what buttons to press to make it work. And they were like, yeah, definitely. You know? And then one evening, Friday the 13th of February 2009, I was called over to the Clarion Hotel after work. I was fully booked every single day. I was doing 20 clients on a Friday. I was doing 17 on a Thursday. I was like, just, lads, look at me. Look at the amount of clients that I'm doing. Like, I'm unbelievable. Fully booked for the next couple of weeks, fully booked tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. I was fired. On the spot, fired. I couldn't believe it. For trying to poach staff for a venture of my own. They completely fucked me over. It was just the most shocking thing. I went from earning €1,500 a week after tax to nothing. I had nothing to fall back on. I was a piss head. I was a coke head. I didn't know how to pay bills. I didn't know how to manage my life. I was fucking chaos. So I was left with nothing. Like I had a gas bill I couldn't pay. I'd imagine on that much money, like it was savage. But I had no idea how to live my life. None whatsoever. Crazy rock bottoms that I didn't know were rock bottoms. But on the 14th of February 2009, I found myself jobless and with I just didn't know what to do. So I met Hugh Campbell for a pint in Souths that evening. And I said, can I have my job back? And he said, no, you can't. He said, Hugh Campbell Hair Studio was Hugh Campbell and Bernadette Campbell. That's his wife. He said, she'd divorce me if I took you back. I said, okay. And Cyril said to me, because Cyril was there, he said to me, why don't you go and see a solicitor called Dan O'Gorman? I said, who? He said, Dan O'Gorman, the dog. Right? They don't call him the dog for nothing. So I said, okay. I left. I'd been with a girlfriend for 3 years that never worked a day in her life, right? She was living off the back of my very well-paid salary, and she was driving my open-top Mercedes convertible around with the 2 dogs in the back, with the scarf on her head. My family used to call her Princess Grace. Used to think I was, they used to just marvel at how full of shit I was, right? And the bullshit. I was an amazing bullshit artist. I was the best bullshit artist you'll ever meet in your life because I had got that far at that time, but it was all born on bullshit, right? So I had some valuable lessons to learn. I knew that I had to move forward. So I rang a guy called John Barrett. He's dead now, actually, rest in peace. And he owned a salon on Fifth Avenue in New York, in the top floor of the Bergdorf in Goodman. I said, John, I'm available. And he said, well, why don't you come out to New York and work with me? And I said, wow, brilliant. So I thought, wow, go to New York and work on Fifth Avenue with John Barrett. Well, what a brilliant opportunity. But whatever stopped me doing that must be something that I have today that was bubbling under the surface, because I realized that if I'd gone to New York to work for John Barrett, I would have become one of these celebrity hairdresser types, right? That would have gone to the Met Gala and all the parties and all the fucking doing all the hair, taking all the drugs, and I would have come back in a box. Or I would have come back at 50 years of age, totally burnt out with no prospects for the future. So I didn't take it up. That was a very, very good move. But what I did do was I phoned Dan O'Gorman's office at 9 a.m. on Monday morning, and I made an arrangement to meet him. I went down to the Limerick Strand Hotel. I met with Sean Lally, the manager. I wanted to speak to the owner. There was a unit on O'Callaghan Strand that I looked at and I said, I want to open Niall Colgan hairdressing there. Now, lads, I didn't have a pot to piss in. I had no business opening a salon, and I had no idea how to do it. So then began this roller coaster of a few months, right? I opened Niall Colgan Hairdressing on the 11th of June 2009, that few months later, that beautiful salon on O'Callaghan Strand. But what I didn't realize was that 2009 was the year that really changed my life, okay? And we'll get to 2013 in a second, but that's the year that I got fired from Bellissimo. I met a man called Dan O'Gorman. I met a man called Sean Kelly. I met a woman called Alison McGrath. I met my partner, Amelia O'Mahony, and I got my dog, Polly. Right? Huge, huge year. I sat in Dan O'Gorman's office on Tuesday when he gave me the appointment. I explained my scenario, and he said, let's fuck these guys, Bellissimo. Let's fuck them, right? I went, okay, let's fuck them. Right? After about 3 meetings with Dan O'Gorman, he said, you're not going to fuck them. And I said, why amn't I going to fuck them? And he said, there's no such word as amn't. so anyway, so he said, you're not going to. He said, you're going to open your own salon. You're going to do that. He said, and I'm going to back you. I'm going to give you 100 grand. I said, sorry? He said, I'm going to give you 100,000 people because €100,000 because I invest in people. And I think you've got what it takes. I said, no, hold on a second here. I said, are you taking the piss? He said, no. And he said, and I don't want to share in your company. You're going to own it 100%, but I want 10% interest and I want to pay back in 7 years. Right? I said, okay, no problem. But he said, I'm putting Sean Kelly and Alison McGrath in charge of your business. They are going to be your financial people. They're going to run your books. They're going to pay your wages. They're going to do absolutely everything. Right? He said, now you're going to go to a product company. You're going to see what you can get off them. So I went to Wella because I'd worked with Wella for 5 years. So I said, Wella, no, this is confidential in the room, yeah? Okay. So I said to Wella, I need some help. And they said, we'll furnish your salon and give you 50,000 if you sign for Wella. So I was like, sorry, what? I couldn't believe it. So I must have built up a good enough standing with my bullshit to make people believe in me, right? Because I didn't have what it took at the time, okay? All of a sudden I found myself with 150 grand and a fully furnished salon. Now it cost me about 250,000 to open the salon. So I always was on the back foot from the day I opened. I had a creditors list of 93,000 euro, right? What did I do? I went and tried to hire every Tom, Dick and Harry that would come and work for me. Rather than knowing my business, starting with me, an apprentice, a colour technician, and a receptionist, which is what I should have done. I started with 16 mercenaries that had absolutely no interest in working for me. They knew that I was terrified of them. They knew that I needed them to work for me. They knew that I hadn't a clue what I was talking about, right? And I opened the doors in Niall Colgan hairdressing on the 11th of June 2009. And then began the white knuckle ride. The living on cornflakes, absolutely couldn't pay my mortgage, couldn't pay my bills. I had all these wages to pay for people that didn't give a shit, right? And my leadership skills at the time were, you're amazing. You're phenomenal at what you do. You're fantastic. You're going to be just the best. You're the best hairdresser. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come up here beside me. Yeah, I will in a minute. Do you know, it was bullshit. It was like I was trying to inflate their egos to make them work for me and like me. But they thought I was a dick. My salon was toxic. I didn't know what buttons to press to make it work. Luckily enough, Sean and Alison were managing whatever money was coming in. I was up there doing 25 clients a day. Fuck it, come on, flying through them. But I was doing all that to pay the wages. While everybody sat in the staff room having a great time. Didn't give a shit, they were getting paid anyway. So lads, I was flying by the seat of my pants. That August then I met Mealy, the girl that I was going out with for 3 years that never worked a day in her life. She came on as my receptionist. She was most unpleasant to clients. And she sat there drinking her water, yes? Yes? And I was like, oh, holy fuck. What the fuck? I paid her €650 a week to be a receptionist, right? In the hope that our money combined, whatever I could take out of the company, which was actually turned out to be nothing. Nothing. I hoped with her €650 that we could start paying the mortgage again. We could start paying bills. Do you think she'd give me a cent of it? No. That's my money. I should have paid her €400 a week and, got her to work. But anyway, lads, it was a disaster. So not long after the official opening in July, I just said, look, you and I are done. Come on, you're out of here. I just can't live like this. And that was the end of that relationship. A few weeks later, Mealy was in the salon getting her hair done. She owned a fashion brand in Limerick called Mealy B, which had a phenomenal reputation. She was a fashion stylist for Ronan Keating's wife, Gráinne and Sheila Shoiga. You know, she, for so many Irish celebrities would choose Mealy to dress them, right? For events, for BAFTAs and wherever they were going, right? But of course, my ego thought she was a dick and her ego thought I was a dick, right? But she had moved into the Strand apartments, which were upstairs, and she was going to something that night. So she said, fuck it, I'll go down to Dickhead Salon and get my hair done, right? Just to blow dry, right? So anyway, the girl that I had drafted in to help me out on reception said to me, Mealy O'Mahony's in the salon, you better go down and say hello. And I went, but she's a dick. And she said, but you're a salon owner, right? So I went down and said, hi Mealy, how are you? Welcome to the salon. And she said, thanks very much. I said, are you going out tonight? Are you having something done? She said, I'm going to a 70s party up in Bars. I said, oh, very good. So I ended up talking to her for a couple of minutes, and then I went about, she said, oh, by the way, how's business? I went, fucking shite. And I walked away, right? So she kind of expected me to say, it's amazing, it's fantastic. You know, I'm the best in the world, you know, and she kind of liked the fact that I said fucking shite, right? So I knew she was going to Bars that night, and I just thought to myself, because I always went for a drink after work, and I thought to myself, sure, pop up to Bars. No, you know, like, and she was outside having a cigarette, and I joined her, and we spoke for a couple of hours, and that was it. We started dating a couple of weeks later, and now we've got two sons, Ruben and Hugo. Ruben is 14, he has autism, and he is the most incredible little boy. And Hugo is 12, spotting women, long hair, thinks I'm a shit hairdresser, wants to go to Dylan Bradshaw to get his hair done, goes to Greg now and again for his fade, won't let me cut his hair. Thinks I'm shit, right? But anyway, that's grand. Loves going to football matches with me, and we have a great time. But so little did I know that I'd meet all these people in 2009 that would shape the rest of my life, okay? Then began the journey from 2009 to 2013. It was tough. But I had Mealy, right? And we started a family, and I had a crazy past. Anyway, we started our family. In December 2012, Ruben was diagnosed with autism, right? And it nearly killed us. Like, to say that we were destroyed was an understatement. So here's what happened. Mealy got stuck into autism and the world of autism, and she needed to know what autism was about. And I got stuck into drinking and taking cocaine. Okay, see the dynamic changing there? Okay. So the business was shit, right? But I was drinking and taking cocaine. It was grand. I was just, you know, I'll be fine. Grand. Hiding it around the house, stuff like that, like mad. I never thought I'd be like that, right? And Mealy was immersing herself in the world of autism. How can we do this? And we grew so far apart between December. That December, Mealy took Ruben for an assessment, and it was a Friday morning, and I was fully booked in the salon, as I always am. And she rang me after the assessment, couldn't speak, bawling, crying. Said he has autism. I had to go back in and cut a lady's hair. I was in the middle of a haircut, right? And I had to put my happy pants on in the salon, right? So you deal with trauma and grief in different ways, right? And if you're not together, you're not together, yeah? You drift apart. Brilliant with that drifting apart, you know, you choosing your paths. Mealy was choosing that path to learn about autism and so on and so forth. And I was choosing that path to go on once again, a self-destructive spiral of insanity. So let's go to the 21st of October 2013. I had been bullshitting my way into making people believe that my salon was absolutely amazing, right? Now, I look back on my life to this point and I realized that I put in the hard graft and the consistency behind the chair. I was never drunk behind the chair. I was never out of my mind behind the chair, right? So there had to have been a level of some stability there that took me to there, and it was my work ethic, because I never took my foot off the pedal, ever. I dedicated myself to my craft. Okay? So on the 21st of October 2013, we win Irish Salon of the Year. I had been making plans on how I was going to drink that day because Mealy was saying to me, don't drink at the awards. And I was like, for fuck's sake. You know, come on, it's the Irish Hairdressing Business Awards. She said, don't drink at the awards. You're to drive to Dublin, you're to drive home. So an alcoholic and an addict, they make lots of plans behind people's backs. So I'd organised for my personal assistant in the salon to drive home and to drive to Killaloe, and I was going to drive the car from the edge of the estate to the... See where I'm coming from? Madness, okay? So I knew that there was terrible tension between Mealy and I anyway, right? I win Irish Salon of the Year, like unbelievable. Like everyone's going to think I'm great. Look at all those people that said I'd shut down in 2 weeks' time, in 4 weeks' time, and you know, when you open your own business. But behind it all, and the reason I was drinking and taking drugs is because I knew it wasn't great, and I knew the salon wasn't great. And all of the experience that I'd had as a manager, creative director, and educational director, I would fire me out of all those jobs in my current salon because it was shit. Never prepared me at all. So you know yourself that you don't deserve the title of Irish Salon of the Year, that your immense capacity to bullshit has got you there, right? So I win Irish Salon of the Year, right? I'm at this stage, 7 o'clock in the evening, I have 2 grams of coke in me. I have maybe a bottle and a half of wine, and now I'm tucking into the pints, and there'll be vodka and Red Bull later. And I ring Mealy to tell her that I've won Irish Salon of the Year. Now, Mealy is exactly the same as Owen, because Owen can see the bigger picture when it comes to barbering, awards, all this absolute bollocks, right? Lads, it is bollocks, right? Of the highest order. Put a capital letter on every one of those letters, right? Mealy thought, I don't give a fuck if you won Irish Salon of the Year, because it's bollocks, right? And I'm like, why aren't you like, and she said, are you drinking? Now, what's that word like? What's that sentence like to someone who's drinking? I said to her, I've just won Irish Salon of the Year. Who the fuck are you? She's at home minding my autistic son, our other little son. She's grief-ridden. She's also got an absolute maniac as a partner who has absolutely no idea about it and who's fucked up in Dublin and it thinks he's great because he won Irish Salon of the Year. She knew it was bollocks anyway, right? So you're fighting a losing battle there, yeah. In that period of time, in 2009, the worst recession that ever hit Ireland hit, and it closed Mealy's business down. So when she got pregnant, she was very, very sick with Reuben. She also hadn't worked, but she was being a mom. So she couldn't leave me, even though she wanted to, because I was a complete wank stain, right? Like, she couldn't leave me because, you know, she had responsibilities with the kids, and she was. So that night she just thought to herself, what am I doing here? Well, who am I with? And I today would never dream of uttering those words to a single human being on the planet, no matter what they were to me or who they were to me or what they meant, whether they had wronged me or anything. So that was a madman. They were the utterings of a madman. Then I went on for the rest of the night to continue getting absolutely fucked up. And instead of walking around and shaking the hands of Dylan Bradshaw and Mark O'Keefe and on all these fantastic hairdressers, I was fucked up in the corner of the room off my tits. That's not an Irish Salon of the Year owner, but it's an egotistical, arrogant man that, you know, has been masking behind drugs and alcohol to think that he is the most incredible human being that ever walked. Look at me, everybody, I've won Irish Salon of the Year. I slept with one of my staff that night. Somebody relayed the story to me the following morning in full detail of what I did. I got kicked out of home. I got kicked out of home. No kids, no Mealy, no family, nothing. Mealy was contacting Dan O'Gorman to have me removed as a director from my own company. Herself and my brother Leo were going to take it over. I was in the shit. I was facing losing absolutely everything. I had the worst week of my life, but I had to go in behind the chair and try and rescue the car crash that happened in the salon, because Mealy contacted the girl that happened with, and she said, "Oh, I didn't really consent," right? And then it went to absolute shit. But then I had to tell the truth. I said, "Well, she did consent because it's happened 6 times before," right? So, get the fuck out of my life entirely. So I was facing losing my children, losing my partner, losing my home, losing my business. A few days later, on the 27th of October 2013, I got up in the morning and I drove to the Cliffs of Moher without telling anybody. And I think I had sent my sister a text to say, how the fuck am I going to write this wrong? I have no future. I can't, I'm looking back at my life, I cannot write this wrong. And I put my phone down in the car, and I was in a flat on New Street in Killaloe. Mealy was over in our house in Quilcha. And I thought to myself, this wave of comfort came over me in the flat that morning, because I felt, this is what I'll do. So I drove to the Cliffs of Moher. I never looked at my phone on the way. I listened to David Bowie all the way. I'm a massive David Bowie fan. David Bowie has been the constant in my life. When I got sober, I wrote 107 essays called 107 Songs That Changed My Life, all about David Bowie songs. People tell me I should make a book out of it. It was really good. So I drove to the Cliffs of Moher, and my sister contacted Mealy and said that she was a bit concerned she couldn't get through to me. And Mealy said, fuck him. Fuck him. Don't give a shit. And then my sister contacted my brothers and my other sister and said, I'm a bit concerned about Niall. I didn't like the tone of the message. And so they all started ringing me. But my phone was on silent and turned over on my passenger seat of my car. I was listening to David Bowie and I was driving to the Cliffs of Moher. I was in an immense state of peace. I can't describe it. I'd never felt it in my life. It was completely and utterly captivating me. Almost elation. Actually, no, elation. So when I got to the Cliffs of Moher, I turned over my phone, I had 137 missed calls, 82 text messages, 37 voicemails, because everybody shit their pants. I got the shock of my life. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Is somebody dead? And while I was looking at my phone, my sister Orla rang, and I answered the phone. And she said, oh, Jesus Christ, thank God you've answered the phone. I said, what's wrong? She said, the whole world is worried about you. And I said to her, it's absolutely fine. I said, I'm in a good place, but I cannot right the wrongs. And I said, I'm going to let you go. And I walked to the edge of the Cliffs of Moher. And I was fully prepared to jump that day. Orla rang me back. Now, my phone just wasn't answered, but she rang back, and I said, Orla, I just want to reassure you, everything is okay. I'm feeling happy. And she said to me, Ma'am will be at your funeral, and she will say, I always told him that it was him, not me. And those powerful words made me stop for 2 minutes. And in that 2 minutes, the fact that Mealy and Joanna, her sister, had been to the Garda station, had pinned my phone, had discovered I was 11 kilometres from the Cliffs of Moher. They had emergency rescue helicopters, the fucking guards, everybody was there. And that 2 minutes allowed everybody to reach me. And I got hauled away from the cliffs. And I got arrested under section whatever it is of the Mental Health Act, and I got taken to Ennistimon and Garda Station. But I was prepared to end my life that day. But had I ended my life that day, I would have died a person that hadn't fulfilled their potential, that had been a failure, that had millions of rock bottoms, that had completely just been an absolute, and I would have continued to be that talk till everybody forgot about me very quickly. So I got saved effectively by that call, and it was an incredible moment. And so Mealy came to the cliffs. Orla, my sister, her husband, Mealy's mother, Joanna, Mealy's sister, and they were all at Ennistimon and Garda Station when I got back. And it was like, wow, they're all here. Mealy said, come home. Come home. I was like, really? Now, the initial shock of what happened that day started to fade within hours, right? And the pain of what I had put her through and what I had done started to resurface, okay? And I'm going to tell you a story about pain that will be so relevant to so many people's lives, that there are two types of pain. There's destructive pain and there's constructive pain, right? And destructive pain is when you're carrying on, drinking, taking drugs, being a complete cycle. And then that causes destructive pain, and eventually you break up, people die, whatever. There's constructive pain. And I realized that night that Mealy, I didn't realize that night, but later on, that Mealy the pain was still there of what I had done, right? So she became angry again, and she became, a couple of days later, my family brought me to St. Pat's. Are you familiar with St. Pat's? St. Pat's is a mental health facility in Dublin that deals with addiction and stuff like that. I spent 1 week in St. Pat's. I will quite safely say it was the best week of my life, even till today, right? Because it was the first time in my life that I was totally and utterly alone, that I didn't have anybody to fall back on. I heard music properly for the first time. I read and took in words properly for the first time. I wrote properly for the first time. It was an amazing experience. Mealy came up to see me, and I told her the truth about everything. Absolutely everything. I held nothing back. Knew it was going to destroy her, but I had to release the truth, because you're only as sick as your secrets. Okay, so if you're harboring secrets, they're going to make you sick, right? And you're only as sick as those secrets. So when you release them, it's this freedom, right? But you've got to deal with the fallout, which is constructive pain. We had a meeting with the mental health team and the addiction team, and I said I needed to get back to work. I needed to get back to work because the salon was on the verge of closing down. It was in total chaos. The staff were all against me. They were all siding with somebody else. And you know yourself. Can you picture the scene? It was insane. When I finished in Pat's that week, they agreed to leave me go after a week because they said that I needed to get back to work, but that I needed to return. This is November. I needed to return to do a 3-month stint in January. Okay? Because that's the average stint for someone who had the behaviors and did what I did. I went back to work and I attended AA for 90 days on the trot. And it was in the rooms when, I was dealing with the fallout and the constructive pain that this man called Eric said to me one night. He said, once constructive pain is gone, it's gone. Once it's healed, it's healed. And you'll be able to move on with your life. And it was only then that I started to focus on my business and what I needed to do to build, because, hey, the man that wanted to be the best was still there. It was only then I could start focusing on my business properly, without a drink to fall back on, without a line of coke, without going out being Billy Big Balls, without being what Mealy used to call DJ Niall Colgan, right? That persona was now gone. I didn't have anything to fall back on. So I became hyper-focused on my business. And I realized that the team around me weren't the team to lead me into the future. So I started to properly speak to them. And I'd say things like, that last haircut you did, I didn't like it. It wasn't up to the standard that I believed a salon should hold. What do you think a hairdresser felt about that? Yeah. Fuck you. Walked out the door. Boom, job done. I hated the way you shampooed that lady. I didn't like the way you spoke to her. Fuck you, job done. Right? So I started to realize that people didn't like being told the truth. I started clearing out my team, and I didn't have to pay redundancy. I didn't have to fire anybody. It's very simple, because the egos in hairdressing, is it the same in barbering? The egos in hairdressing, man, they don't like being, they don't like it. No. And at this stage of my life, I said this to Owen yesterday, I didn't know my business, but everybody in Limerick knew my business. Do you know what I mean by that? Right? So I had to get to know my business. And I gave, over the years, everybody in Limerick so much to talk about. So much so that I almost have no clients in my chair from Limerick. All of my clients travel from Kerry, Cork, Belfast, London, Dublin, Sligo, Waterford. Like, almost everybody's traveling. If I wake up in the morning feeling sick, I need to get on the phone at 6 a.m. to start cancelling clients. Do you know what I mean? Because they're on the road. So I didn't know my business, but everybody knew my business. So I made a pact that I was going to know my business and that nobody was going to know my business because I wasn't going to give anybody anything to talk about. So between the years of 2013 and 2020, I was hyper-focused on building my business, becoming a better partner, becoming a better father. Nothing else. Nothing. Because I couldn't focus on anything else because they were enough, right? I had to start learning about finances. Now Mealy's a brilliant money manager, right? And she was keeping us afloat, right? I had to start learning everything about business because I'd never done a business course. I still have never done a business course. Never done anything, Don't know, I had to learn it myself. So between 2013 and 2020, that was my focus. Rebuilding a team, starting to look for hairdressers and people. So I thought, you can't hire already trained hairdressers because you can't teach an old dog new tricks unless they really want to be taught new tricks, right? So I started to hire from the bottom up. And by God, that I put work into training those people. So I took Mandy out of school, she's now my manager. I took Niamh out of school, she's now my creative director. I took Caoimhe out of school, she's now my colour director. I took, you know what I mean? All of my staff that I have now, bar the apprentice team, are all with me 10 years or longer. I'm only sober 12 years, right? Incredible. I hate the cliche of people saying we're like a family. We are like a family, but they know their role, right? They know their role because I changed my leadership skills from trying to feed everybody's ego to setting a standard within the salon that everybody had to meet. My standard. It's my business. I'm paying the fucking wages. It's my name over the door. Why don't I set a standard? My standard is high. Everybody in the salon wants to hit that standard. They wouldn't be there for 10 years or longer if they didn't. They want to hit the standard, right? I don't go around and say, you're amazing, you're fantastic, you're brilliant. But I will say to them, beautiful haircut. Gorgeous colour. Love your work, right? Because they're doing beautiful work. Like we are turning out beautiful work. So that 2013 to 2020, that 7 years was the years that the constructive pain went away, that I became a leader, and I did become a leader. Because if you employ one person, you're a leader. Don't think you're not a leader, because if you're not leading that one person, well then you're just their friend, or they're just your employee, or, you know, like it's just, if you want to build, if you want to grow, think of yourself as a leader. So I think of myself as a leader. And I learned that mindset in those 7 years. COVID hit. I think I said earlier on, COVID was the best thing that ever happened to me. It really was, lads. It really was. Because COVID gave me practically, was it 2 years off with a couple of stints in between back in the salon. Oh man, it was fantastic. I loved it. Because I had a savage work ethic and I worked every hour God sent, right? And then I couldn't work. The day I finished, the day we closed the salon for COVID, when I got home that evening, I remember Mealy handed me a beautiful dinner and she said, like she does every evening, but she said, you take this, because we thought we were going to be closed for 2 weeks. She said, you take this opportunity to relax and I'm taking over the business, right? Because by then, Ruben was 9 and Mealy had more time and space for this. And by God, did she take over the business. She took over all communication with Dan, Sean, and Alison, and she gave me COVID time off. And today, she's a mastermind businesswoman, right? She runs everything. Hence, we're debt-free. We own our own unit. It'll be paid off in January. We're personal debt-free, right? We've got money in the bank. The salon's got money in the bank. We owe the VAT man nothing. We had an 8-month revenue audit. We pissed revenue off so bad because we bought a Jeep. Do you know? And they came in and said, "Oh, you're doing something." You know, because we were so, you're doing something. You're dodgy bastards, right? Because if you're an employer in Ireland, they like to think you're a bit of a criminal, right? These revenue people, right? They'll fuck you ass up, man. You know, like they're gonna like, they're here. No, he's doing something dodgy. He's dodgy. That fella's dodgy. You know, and they'll come in, they'll make you feel like a criminal when they're interviewing you and everything. Then Breed O'Keefe will walk away from RTE with €455,000 for doing an average job as a payoff after tax. We've no people to do OT and social workers and people like that, but they'll hire a housing SAR for 430 grand. Do you know? So revenue will make you feel like a criminal, but you got to write it out, right? You got to write it out. You got to keep going. So during the COVID years, I put my focus on social media, and that's what changed my business in its entirety. It turned it from being a salon that was begging for clients to a salon that clients were begging for appointments. Magic. Just like that. So Mealy took over the business in COVID. I started on social media. Started vlogging every day. I had introduced a policy within the salon of everybody taking before and after pictures of their work about 18 months beforehand. Everything, whether they were happy or unhappy, didn't give a shit, it'll make you a better hairdresser. Take a before and after picture. When that client comes back in 6 weeks' time, you go into your camera roll, that your pictures are in the cloud, they won't take up any space. You go to the 12th of March. Oh yes, oh Mary, you were here. Yeah, look, is that your hair? Yeah. Was there anything about it that you liked or hated? Because if you're doing a client, and this happened to me all the time, and she comes back in 6 weeks and she says, I want you to do exactly what you did the last time. The exact length, and you're like, who the fuck are you? Right? Happened to me all the time. But now we had a record of every single client that left the salon, because this baby here is your best friend in your business. You can capture everything that you do on this. I'll just show you now something very quickly. So if I go into my albums, right, or library, how do I do this? So I've got 147,444 photos on my phone. I've got 20,823 videos, 26,355 live photos, 3,356 portrait photos, 11,438 screenshots. That's my ADHD. And so this baby here completely changed my life. Document everything. So when the client came back, I had a picture of her previous before and a picture of her after. So it was all there. That gives you some power. And it's so simple. It only takes a second. Then I started recording haircutting videos. And I started posting them. And people, this is before COVID, people started liking them. All of a sudden, they started to get some views on Facebook. And then they got more views. And then my videos were getting an average of 6 million views for each one. I was like, whoa, what the fuck is going on here? The phone was ringing. The phone was ringing. People wanted to come in. They wanted to know the person that was paying so much attention and detail to the haircut. Because I had to absolutely figure out who I was. No longer was it about quantity. 24 clients on a Friday, it's bollocks. It was about quality. And the quality is missing so much in the hair industry. It's not funny. I think I said to Owen yesterday, we're the only industry in the world where 80% of people in it don't do it properly. Imagine if there were 80% of dentists didn't do it properly. But I really thought about that after I spoke to you yesterday. And I really thought about it last night. I thought, it's probably more like 95% that aren't doing it properly. There's a science. There's a fundamental. And let me tell you something, and these words changed my life. Somebody said to me, the mastery is in the basics. Okay? The mastery. To become a master at what you do. A master now, okay? It's a big word, a master. To become a master, you have to master the basics and consistently deliver on the basics. If you look at a brilliant architect, they mastered the basics. You look at a brilliant builder, they mastered the basics. Look at a brilliant hairdresser, they mastered the basics. Look at a brilliant barber, mastered the basics, right? Because 95% of hairdressers, and maybe, I don't know if it's the same in barbering, they aren't given the time by their employers to master and deliver on the basics. Because time is money. You need to get paid in out. Peter Mark's 20-minute haircuts. Yeah? We give an hour to a haircut. I give an hour to every haircut, right? And that doesn't include the blow dry time. I've got a personal assistant that blow dries it, then I go back in for 15 minutes with my personalizing. But I charge €165 for a haircut. New clients today on my waiting list are 165. Last year for new clients, I put my price up to 120. The year before that, I put my price from 90 to 100. So my existing clients in my chair are paying €100. Anybody that joined my client list 1 year ago pays 120. Anybody that comes to my salon today off my waiting list pays 165 going forward. If you told me 4 years ago I'd be charging €165 for a haircut, I would have said, absolutely, you fucking bananas. Nobody will ever pay that. Everybody wants to pay it, believe it or not, because they want that. They want to be able to go out and say, Niall Colgan cuts my hair. What? You cut hair? It's very expensive. It's funny. I was asked to do an interview on local radio and talk about the prices in the industry and so on and so forth. And did you hear this story, Mary? No, prices in the industry, right? And this woman came on. She was a hairdresser in Ballygo backwards, we'll say, right? And anyway, they were on saying, so this is when I went up to €100. The presenter said, oh, how can you justify €100 for a haircut? I was like, this is awkward. So I started, it's a time thing. I'm, 35 years in the industry at the time, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. And you think people are going to pay it, and I'm sorry, this is local radio lads. Come on, So anyway, this woman rings up and she says, I'm a hairdresser now. She said, and that fella, he's only taking the piss out of you. €100, I charge €45 for a haircut. I said, how many haircuts do you do in an hour? She says, 5. I said, you're more expensive than I am. She is? That's how much she gets for her hour. I get less. Bitch. But that period of time in COVID, right? Lads, I had all of this content. All this content. And while every other salon in Ireland was sitting on their laurels thinking, what's going to happen? Where are we at? I was fucking posting, boom, 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 boom. Come on, fucking eat me up. Come on, you bastards. Look at you don't have any content, you fuckers. Come on, boom, boom. Look, try this beautiful haircut. Try this haircut. Look at this technique. Look at this. Boom, 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 boom. Every day. 5, 6 times. Every day. Befores and afters. Nobody was doing that because no one was doing hair. Everybody wanted to know. My DMs blew up. Can I have an appointment in your salon when you reopen? We came back to chaos because we had our normal list of clients, but I had about 5,000 names of people wanting to become clients of the salon. 5,000. Fucking amazing. Amazing. I came back to work after COVID. I got back in behind the chair. A fucking proud man, right? Because not only did I have a team that were hitting my standards that I'd set, but I had the clientele for them now. And the clientele for me, they were willing to pay and travel. Willing to get on planes and come to get their haircut. So I knew I had a standard to maintain. So every day I try and better myself. Every single day. I still want to be a better hair cutter than I am today. I do not ever take my foot off the pedal when it comes to cutting hair. I absolutely adore it. I've got 20 staff, they're all amazing. It's a tough thing to be a business owner and an employer in 2025, right? Last year, for the first time ever, we turned over 7 figures as a one salon, sitting on O'Callaghan Strand in Limerick. I would never have believed that we could have done that. However, my sick pay bill and my holiday pay bill was €76,000. My wage bill, right? Okay, so am I getting the point across here? My costs were also very, very high. So the very, very brilliant saying that I learned that turnover is for vanity, profit is for sanity. Okay? So I was earning all this money and we were taking in all this money, but your costs are very, very high. You need to manage that as well. Now, we have managed it well, but again, it comes with its own problems. But here we are today now, and I've learned 100,000 lessons, 100,000. But I've taken each failure. I think it's really, really important to fail because I failed so many times, so many. Can't begin to tell you the amount of times. I can't begin to tell you. It was like Vidal Sassoon said before he became what he became. He said he made 10,000 women cry. Yeah, trying to master his craft. So I've made 10,000 people cry, right? I know that. I've hurt a lot of people. I've made lots of mistakes. I've had lots of failures, but I've come out the other side. I absolutely stay in my own lane. I don't give a shit what anybody else is doing. Don't give a fuck. I don't give a shit what Auda's doing, what Cyril's doing, what Melissa Moore doing, what Hugh Campbell's doing. Nothing. Maintain my standards. Stay focused. Do the best haircut I could possibly do on my next client. Be the best dad I can be. Be home. Be present. Be the best partner I can be. Be the best DJ I can be. And just be the best brother I can be. I've only got one friend, and he means everything to me, right? Because I had 100,000 friends when I was drinking. They loved the lines in the toilet, and they loved the crack, and they loved the fun. I have one friend. We speak every day on the phone. Every day. And he owns a very successful business as well. And we help each other out. But I don't need another friend. I just don't. Yeah? I just need my circle. My area of influence is tiny, but I influence it. My area of concern is massive, right? So, you know, what's happening in Gaza? Look at President Trump. Look at all this stuff. It's stop concerning yourself with noise. Focus on your business. Focus on you. Learn your business. Know your business inside out. And if you're just one person, if you're self-employed, or if you're an employee, or if you're an employer, have your goal. I have a 5-year plan, okay? Because I've been trying to make people make me money for the last 16 years. I now own my business premises. I've done a huge renovation on it. It looks absolutely spectacular. You should all come and visit and say hello and have a cup of coffee at my new coffee bar. You know, I'll own it outright next year. It's a €900,000 property now. Right? It's fun. That's Ruben and Hugo sorted. Okay? So what will I do as a business owner? In 5 years' time, I won't have 20 staff anymore. I'll have 4. A receptionist who will run the salon. An apprentice who will look after my every need with my clients. A colour technician. And then me. I will rent a chair off Niall Colgan Hairdressing Limited, and all of the rest of the team will be renting chairs as well. Because I need to change with the times. I need to know my business. Who wants to pay €76,000 every year on holiday pay and sick pay? Right? The building is going to start making me money because I don't have to pay for it anymore. So how do you change? You look for that avenue all the time. That is my goal. That's what I'm going to do. When I hit 80, I want Ruben and Hugo, Mealy, Mark, my friend, my brothers and sisters, whoever's still around, to be around the table and say, thank God you didn't die. You made it. Yeah. Any questions? I'm sure you have loads of questions. But like, yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's some story.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of you. It's that story.
Thank you very much. Well, you know, the thing that I learned, and the lads touched on earlier on, like 9,800 plus quality posts on social media means that I give absolutely nobody anything to say about me anymore, except, fuck it, he's talented. Yeah? Or he runs a great business. And I can sit back and go, yeah, I do. Not try and mask it to believe that I do, or try and make everybody believe that I do. I was the most talked about person I'd say in the country at one stage, for all the wrong reasons.
And you were.
Yeah.
I witnessed
yours. The most talked about. Like, the most talked about. This isn't a lie. And I know you're thinking, who's that hairdresser think he is? But honestly, I gave so much quality gossip to people. Quality. Like, it wasn't, you have to remember, it wasn't just your man was langers the other night. It was quality. It was fucking juicy shit. It was, because it was bad. It was bad. So I had to spend, what?
Even though it was bad, and even though you were out there and everybody knew about it, the whole lot, everybody, well, all us, would have always said, he's so brilliant, and look at him. He's so brilliant, and look at him.
Yeah.
So among hairdressers who knew you and worked with you, and that was our opinion.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I did know that I had that support from certain people, but I did know that, you know, like, it was difficult because, like, if anybody ever said, I'm going to work for Niall Colgan, people went, why would you work for that fucking pervert, drunken lout? Do you know what I mean? Like, honestly, now today, we had this conversation last night. You will never see on my page, we are hiring, ever, because I don't need to. I have a waiting list of stylists, colour technicians, receptionists, apprentices that want to come and work for my brand. A waiting list. Because they want to be part of what we do. Because our standards are screaming quality. And look, that is me speaking from a place of confidence and love, and you know, that's not me speaking from a place of ego and arrogance. I'm fucking happy to say that because it's the truth. People want to be part of that. We've got a huge movement of people going out to rent chairs at the moment because they're not respected, they're not given the opportunities in the salons, they're treated like shit, they're not paid enough. And the people making the noise in our industry at the moment are self-employed people. Do you know why? Can anybody tell me why they're making all the noise? Because they have to. They have to. Because they now are in a self-employed... The buck stops with them. They're the most important people in the world. They're their business. They have to. They have to make much more noise than me. They have to fucking roar. Look at me. I'm amazing. Come on. You need to be coming to my chair. One chair. So they're actually making all the noise. So the salons that are making no noise are going to lose because the noise is getting louder. And they're the ones that they realize that they have to push in. So you've got all these individual businesses making the noise. Yeah. So you got to step up to the mark, because where it's at, bad and all as it is social media. Because you got to get it out there. And email, I learned today. Because when I popped out there, was I here for an hour? When I came in and I was listening to the lads, I popped out to contact my receptionist and say, send a 9-word email. Yeah. Like, I don't need to send an email but my business in 5 years needs me to send an email. I don't need to. We're fully booked this week. I don't need to send an email. But the clients will ring and they'll say, can I book an appointment? And Jack will say, well, actually, we don't have anything, but I can give you something in June. And they'll go, really? Okay, yeah, I'll take June. Send an email. Get me 20 clients for June for the salon next week. Yeah, for today. Let's see how many clients we get today with this email. Yeah, because as I said, June will be booked out next week when the time comes. But even if I didn't send the email, but in 5 years' time, the email will be important.
You should post a story that only us will probably get it if you say email got an X, whatever the number is.
Yeah. You know, so it's you see, when you go about like the lad said that the first thing they noticed was that 9,800 posts. You can't fake consistency. It's so simple. You can't fake it. Like, it's the people that come around with their, look at me, I can do a GHD wave on this bob that I haven't cut properly. Yeah? Yeah? Look, but look at these waves. Ooh, they're savage. No foundation, no structure, no start, no middle, no end. Have I another minute?
Oh, yeah.
So what I actually learned about hair cutting is that it is like building a house, right? So you need to first of all, lay the foundations, which is mastering the basics, okay? Then you need to build the house, which is working through your haircut piece by piece. And then you need to furnish the house, okay? The majority of the hairdressing industry, and it's definitely not the same in barbering because you need to do full haircuts. The majority of the hairdressing industry are not laying the foundations or building the house. They're only furnishing the house. So if you take, what's your name? Sabina. If you take Sabina into your chair, right, and you're cutting her hair, and you don't shampoo it, bring it back to the chair, section it off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Do the haircut, right? Fully. Section off the fringe, do the fringe. Do your C curvature, do your layer, do whatever. Then blow dry it. You've got a basic haircut, right? So whatever shape that is, it's a basic haircut. So you can teach anybody to do a basic haircut, okay? But it's how you furnish the house is what sets you apart from everybody else, all right? But you have a problem in our industry that from going to shows and watching hairdressers on stage only furnishing the house because they've got the fucking haircuts done backstage. They come out and furnish the house. They show you their hair weight removal techniques and how they create shades and shadows and movement and how they make a basic haircut look sexy. All of a sudden you get this mind shift in the hairdressing industry that all you need to do is furnish the house. There's only 1% of haircutters building the house. You know, everybody else is only furnishing the house. Get the point across, you're booked out. I also specialize in post-chemotherapy haircutting, which is precision haircutting on a totally other level. And it's also helping people that have been really sick get back to feeling themselves and wonderful. So that's people whose hair is growing back. I found that because they had shorter hair, hairdressers wanted to make them look funky rather than get their hair back, whatever fucking it took. Patience, perseverance, and precision. 3 Ps. Let's get your hair back. You lovely long hair. The client that had lovely long hair that used to come into Siobhan for a blow dry every week and talk about Siobhan's boyfriend and her boyfriend, and you know, she doesn't want to talk to Siobhan about her boyfriend anymore. She doesn't want to talk about her boyfriend. She doesn't want to talk about her nights out. She wants to know she's going to have fucking beautiful hair again. Yeah? Requires a precision that's second to none. Because the chemo curl comes with post-chemotherapy. Almost every single person gets this, what we call the chemo curl. So you need to remove that. And it needs to be cut like section by section to remove it so that you're building immediately from the beginning, you're starting to build a foundation shape. The secret of beautiful hair is structure, shape, and balance, whether it be men or women. Yeah, 3 things. Structure, shape, and balance. Not funny techniques. Not wild abandon with your scissors, you know. It's those 3 things. It's, because that creates suitability with faces. Because anything that you do, if you follow the scientific fundamentals for cutting hair, the haircut will work with the face shape that you do because that's their look. Yeah. So there I was rabbiting again now. So that's me. Yeah. All right. Okay. Hopefully you got something from us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyone have questions from that?
Yeah.
I mean, what a fun story.
Just thank you for sharing.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
How does it feel to nearly like own the place now and have that weight kind of
You
think that it's valued at about 900?
Yeah, I think, we had it valued a couple of years ago at 750, so it's really risen, and we've done it up. We've created an extra couple of rooms within it. We haven't affected the spatial aspect of it. It looks bloody incredible, and it is a beautiful space to come to. And
I dropped a couple of stands over to when I was working
Yeah.
at Frank's, and it is unreal to walk into. It's like,
yeah, but even now, like it's It's since we reopened on the 8th of January. I have to pinch myself because I'm cutting hair in my dream salon that I own. Do you know? And my friends in the industry, none of them own their salons, none of them. So when they're gone, they're gone. When their salons are gone, they're gone. That's tough. Like, that's a stress in itself. Do you know? When they're gone, they're gone.
Would you say no, having gone through all that as a salon owner, having employees and stuff, is it a worthy goal to aim for, to have your own shop?
100%. 100%. But you need to know the vision that you want. You need to know exactly. You need to be fully, make sure that you do a course on business and or talk to business leaders like the lads, just to know, just to be aware, know what you're doing. I would definitely say it's the way to go, because even though I'm telling you that all the self-employed people are the ones making all the noise, it's like Airbnb came into Ireland and completely wiped out 25% of the rental properties in Dublin. The knock-on effect has led to extreme homelessness and and rent prices going through the roof. So Airbnb coming in. I remember I watched this documentary on Yellowstone. Have you heard of Yellowstone National Park in America? They introduced a pack of 6 wolves. Have you heard this story? They introduced a pack of 6 wolves, right? And those 6 wolves have changed the infrastructure, the shape, they've changed how the rivers flow in Yellowstone, right? They came in, they started culling some of their prey, right? So they changed how animals moved around the park. They changed how vegetation grew in those areas. They have changed Yellowstone Park so dramatically, those 6 wolves. Like, I was watching the program, my eyes were falling out of my head. It's an actual fact. But things can change things negatively. And Airbnb, products like that moving into Dublin, 25% of the rental market was taken away. It has reshaped the economical situation in Ireland. It's put house prices through the roof. It's put rents through the roof. It's created horrific homelessness. And that's just in Dublin. So when you hear people banging on about refugees and that being the issue, it's actually the fact that these huge companies it's like the guy with the cookies. And he says to you, he's trying to take your cookies. He's got all the cookies, you've got 1 cookie. And this guy here is trying to take your cookie, but this guy here has all the cookies, right? And he said, he's trying to take your cookie. Yeah? He wants you to hate him. Yeah? But he's got all the cookies. Okay? That's the story. It's the same with these things. Like, you know, it's madness. Like, the world is just mad. Stay in your own lane. Like,
Even better reason to just create your own world.
Yeah.
Just look after that. Because even if you look at your story there, like the chaos, it all fucking happened by being involved in every other world. You know?
100%.
Even the Irish Hairdressing Awards and what that entails, and like Wella, and all of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's mad. It's mad. Like, to think I came out the other side, you know. But like, I quite often talk to people that have addiction issues. They'll reach out every now and again. And Mealy says to me, you have to remember when you're talking to this person that you came from a place of privilege, right? And that place of privilege was that the day I was let out of St. Pat's, Mealy was there to pick me up, hurt and all as she was. That's a sign of love, yeah? She drove me back to Killaloe. It was in November. Brett, her sister, had the fire lighting. The kids were fed. The house was warm. Polly was there to meet me at the door. Yeah? That's a place of privilege. Yeah? I was surrounded by love, even though it was in-pained love. Yeah? And there was going to be a lot of pain for the next few years, and there was. But when that was gone, that was gone. Okay? But a lot of the people I talk to, they don't have anybody in their lives anymore. They've gone beyond that. And so I need to reassess my story, if you like, and my mindset around how to convey hope to them. Because it's very easy to convey hope when you've been given hope. But if there's no one there to give them hope, how do you move on? How do you move forward? So it's so important to have and to hold, the people close to you, small and all as it is. Have one person, have that. So a lot of people don't have anybody at all. So that's when we change that narrative. Yeah. So anything else you want to ask me before I step off the stage? You'd be very sorry if there was a question that you wanted to ask and I walk out that door. I'll be gone.
You still had, let's say, I know you were trauma, you still had the work ethic and the talent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the groundwork done. I never embarrassed myself that I was drunk at work. Yeah. I took what I did too seriously. I think that, everybody laughed when I went to become a hairdresser because they presumed I was going to be a homosexual loser, which is what the sort of things I was called. That was their opinion of me, That was my father's opinion of me. He didn't speak to me for years. Well, if you're leaving this house, you're leaving this family. Fuck off. Walked down the drive, I called him a louser walking down the drive. I got the keys of UL in the back of my head as I was walking down the drive. But he thought, only someone who doesn't have anything else becomes hairdressers, right? I try and get the point across to people that working in the hair industry is one of the most exciting things in the world. Get to make people happy all day long. Get to talk about things with people that connect with you. You start to build a clientele of like-minded people. Initially, it's really hard to be a hairdresser because you're meeting lots of dickheads. Yeah? Because you're cutting people's hair and they're like, just fucking don't touch me. You know what I mean? But then you build up a clientele of people that fucking, they walk with your beat. Do you know? And the people that follow you on social media know whatever it takes, I'm getting to Niall Colgan for a haircut, whether it be January 27 or, you know what I mean? They're going, but they already know my beat. Do you know? A couple of years ago, I did a haircut for a lady and her daughters insisted that she came to me for a haircut. It was very funny, actually. So anyway, she's sitting in my chair. I come over and I'm like, give me a bit of history on your hair. What do you like? And she's like, and I'm, oh, okay. She just looked at me as if I was mad. I'm like, okay, do you like it short? Anyway, after the brief consultation, she went to the basin, she got shampooed, she came back up. I said, this is how I'm going to do it, this is how I'm going to approach it. Next thing, I take the tiniest little section, just like I do with my haircuts. And I clip this bit up and I start. Next tiny section down. And she's like, whoa, what the fuck is going on here? Right? She's starting to shift uncomfortably in the chair. She's like, what the hell is happening here? This is absolutely terrible. So after about 4 sections, I'm like, is everything okay? Because obviously as hairdressers, we know when someone's sitting in the chair and they're not. So is everything okay? Yes. So I continue on, and eventually I just put down my scissors and comb and say, I'm sorry, please, I know that something's not okay, so can we just talk about it, at least? So she said, I was the worst hairdresser she'd ever come across in her life. She said, this is the worst experience. She just wants to get out, right? She says she normally goes to Noreen, and when she just walks in the door and Noreen knows exactly what to do with her hair and she doesn't have to ask any questions, she just cuts her hair and then she just lets her out and she just goes about her business and you're just fluffing around there. I thought you'd be really fast and I thought you'd be faster than Noreen. And I said, okay, thank you for sharing. I said, now I understand. I said, okay, it's all right. I don't bite. But this is going to take longer than it would with Noreen. But look, we're going to do our best, right? And I'll go as fast as I can. Right, she said. And I said, and honestly, I know how to cut hair. I'm not going to do a bad job, but, it'd probably be different to the way Noreen cut it, but it'll be, it'll still be a nice shape. It'll have structure, shape, and balance, and it'll be something like we explained at the start, But just let me get on with it, and I'll get you. So lads, because I still followed my standards. I still stuck to what I was doing. I wasn't going to just randomly pick it up, just like, Still followed my standards. We blow dried her. She didn't say another word to me. Not another word. She didn't even, just shut it back. She was just so furious that it took so long to do her hair. She was just beyond furious. And she stood up out of the chair to walk away, and I just said, say hi to Noreen for me. Thank you. And moved on to the next line. So, your vibe attracts your tribe, right? But her daughters were my vibe. She wasn't. They were like, you have to go into him, you have to go into him, you have to go into him. We go into him, we love him, he's amazing. But they were my tribe. She wasn't my tribe, and I wasn't her tribe. And my vibe certainly wasn't her vibe, so, but that's a rare occurrence. But at the start, when I started, when you're building your clientele, you're meeting dickheads all the time. Like people that you do not, what's the word I'm looking for? Bond with, gel with, yeah. So that's the hardest part in hairdressing, I think, trying to build your clientele to a full book, because your aim should always be a full book until it's not your aim anymore, if that makes sense. Yeah, make it your aim until it's not your aim, because once you have your full book, well then the world is your oyster then, because you've achieved that goal. Now you need to find another one. Yeah. All right. So how long was I talking for? About 6 hours, was it?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was great.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks a million. I certainly hope it wasn't too waffly.